Is there a figure in animation today that's more controversial amongst their own fan base than Thomas Astruc, the creator of Miraculous Ladybug? And I say his fan base, but, I mean the show. Although, maybe he does have his own hardcore stans. You honestly never really know, do you? But yeah, I guess stranger things have happened. But yeah, to say that this dude's a little bit controversial would probably be a bit of an understatement. Like, when the show's active, unlike now, right now we're in a dormant period, the off season, but when the episodes are being released, whether the general consensus is positive or negative on the show, you'd better believe that Astruc is going to be front and center on social media. The reality is that the fandom is rather large and filled with heaps of different tastes, different ships, different favorite characters. Oh, I want this to happen. No, I want this to happen. I hate this. I love this. Yada, 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 yada. On it goes. That's just what happens when fan bases grow. They get a lot of diversity and honestly a lot of toxicity too. And often this needs an outlet. So what else is there to do other than to tweet angry things at Astruc? Well, not tweet anymore, I guess. What are we supposed to call it? Zeet? Gzweet? I don't know. Do we send out an X? Is it just called posting? I hate Elon Musk. Anyway, what a cesspit. And obviously, X being a cesspit is going to draw complainers and the hardcore fans and the trolls and the shippers and the stans and the fanfic writers who think they can do a better job and the haters. And of course, in abundance, there are also the crazy people. And of course, there are many special folks that fit into more than one of these categories. And so no matter whether popular opinion is with the show or against it, and I mean, it really can change as fast as the weather sometimes. They have a string of really strong episodes that seem to be setting up big things, then they fumble the ending, or it never leads anywhere and people complain. And so his feed, his timeline, his inbox, it's going to be filling up. And I think that's much the same for many big creators, but I've never seen a showrunner or whatever that so vigorously defends himself and argues with anybody and everybody, even down to the anime profile pic people who are clearly trolling or unhinged. He'll take their bait 100% of the time, and so I think this has somewhat contributed to his infamy amongst the fan base, because he's so willing to go to battle over the smallest infraction.
Look, stop that, chicken!
And so instead of slowly slinking away when they realize he won't engage with them, and will instead just outright block them, this dude charges into battle and gets all the crazies riled up. And then he gets riled up some more, which riles up even more people, and on it goes. And so today, I figured why not do a deep dive into this cesspit and see what we come up with. Is Thomas Astruc a misunderstood artist who deserves better from the fans? Or is he an unstable man-child who needs to log off, go for a walk, and touch some grass? Guess we'll see. And before we dive into any fan opinions, I figured I could start with my own personal opinion, and a fun little anecdote as well. Okay, so I do think that sometimes the fandom does need to cut this dude some slack. Every minor infraction, everything he says on Twitter, it goes under the microscope, and I gotta say, that would be deeply annoying, especially to receive the level of complaints, suggestions, and critiques that he does. They don't even send it to the public Miraculous account, the official account. They send it to him, his personal Twitter profile. It would be very tiresome, I'm sure. I mean, trust me, I get some really weird and kind of annoying comments on my videos sometimes, and I mean not like normal critiques or suggestions, but just unhinged shit. Not even targeting me sometimes, just racism, sexism, homophobia, my god. It's always there, yikes indeed. And he's vastly more popular than I am. So I can only imagine the stuff that crops up on his feed to drive him insane. But I'll be real with you, he needs to stop. Come on. It's sad at this point. If you are so thin-skinned as to reply to anybody, to let anybody and everybody work you up into a rabid froth, then maybe you should not be making your Twitter, I don't know, a public profile. And here's my own personal anecdote of an interaction with Thomas Astruc online. So I don't know, this is probably years ago at this point. I made a video that addressed some fan backlash previously to Thomas Astruc and his writing of the characters and the way he responds. And one of you mad lads actually linked it to him out of context on Twitter. And yeah, he's suddenly raging about it. His usual screed. You know how it usually goes with him. And he stated that he was going to do a breakdown on Twitter as to why my video was trash and why all my points were wrong. And ironically, it seems like he did not watch the video at all. Because in the video, I actually said that despite all the drama and whatnot, everything had been mostly overblown and that people should probably cut the dude some slack. He never did end up telling me why I was wrong about everything I said. Honestly, dude probably just forgot about it. I assume he gets so much of this shit that he didn't have time, but I did find it rather amusing nonetheless. So I guess that's my own personal take on things, having done, some relatively minimal research at the start of this video. Just from my personal opinions and anecdotes, the dude is massively cringe at times. He needs to log off. He needs to step away from the keyboard for his own mental health. It cannot be good for you to always get this tilted by any passing comment. It just can't. But that being said, at the time I did think that perhaps people went way too hard on this guy. After all, in the end, it's a TV show. Is it worth the harassment of somebody else? And I'm honestly, even after all this, even after diving into the specific reasons fans don't like him, I stand by that. It really isn't worth it. But like I said, those are just my personal thoughts, having not really looked into other people's thoughts on the dude, just my perceptions at first. And so I had to dive deeper, and there are actually a lot of people out there that have very handily, for me, gone into great detail as to what they do not like about this man. And so it was just a matter of me sifting through various posts on Reddit and whatnot. And there's a very helpful Tumblr blog called The Immaturity of Thomas Astruc, which actually compelled me to straight up make a Tumblr account because I was so interested in the gripes that they had. And whilst I don't think I agree with necessarily every single one of their statements, and I think that perhaps sometimes they do, come down a bit hard on the dude, I do respect the hustle to put it all together. It's long, but yeah, this is about more than just that blog. I wanted to see the majority consensus. Why is there such a large subsection of fans that cannot stand this man? What are the reasons? And after a deep dive, well, holy shit. There's a lot of reasons, like a lot of reasons. But I think the big reason, or rather the surface level, entry level gripe, is his inability to compromise on audience complaint about the quality of his writing or the direction of his writing. And I call this the entry level gripe, because it's probably the first one a fan is going to notice when they're new to the fan base and start to engage with it on a deeper level. The most common complaint in the history of this franchise is the quality of the writing in the show. And so those are the complaints that are likely going to get sent to Astruc to begin with. And therefore they're going to be the ones that he responds to the most. And also they'll be the ones that filter back to the fandom over social media. I mean, it's quite clear to I think everybody at this stage that this dude, he does not handle his criticism well. And I think it rubs the fan base the wrong way. Because in their eyes, they have legitimate gripes. They've invested time watching this show. Hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And then things don't happen the way they want. And sometimes you have to take that on the chin. But I think you are allowed to complain when it keeps happening. And this dude takes one look at those complaints. He scoffs. He implies that people making those tweets are universally stupid, with no real nuance to that. He states that they'll never understand how it works to write characters in a professional setting, that he clearly knows these characters better than anybody else, being the creator, etc, etc, etc. That sort of pretentious, looking down on you type of thing. And I mean, yeah, on one hand, objectively, he's right. Those are facts. The characters are his creations, and the reality is that he is a professional writer. Most of us, not so much. And so I guess, from that point of view, he is right. But it's in the way that he interacts with people and the way he ignores context that I think pisses folks off. Let's use his most famous rage bait as an example. One topic that is always going to get this dude riled. It's the topic of Chloe, and what seemed, to the fandom at least, to be her aborted redemption arc during the course of season 2 and 3. Like seriously, on the Immaturity of Thomas Astruc blog, they have a long thread of a single conversation, basically, where he posted something, replied to someone, and heaps of people commented on it complaining at him. And he would reply to every single person, arguing with them as to why he made the best writing choice, why they know nothing, why he's superior, whatever it was. He can't resist commenting. He can't resist fighting with them. I suspect a lot of these commenters are barely more than children in my eyes, and yet he's engaging with them. This man's 40 plus. But yes, just for the quick refresher, in case you've somehow forgotten the context of all of this. During season 1 of Miraculous, we have Chloe. She acts as the immediate villain for much of the show. She's the human villain. She drives the immediate episode-by-episode storylines. She bullies people, they get upset, they get akumatized, yada yada yada. That's just how it goes. And yeah, she kind of sucks, but, love to hate her sort of way. She's bratty and very stupid and annoying. She has no compunction about hurting people or screwing them over if she can get ahead in some way. But then over the course of season 2, you learn more about her, she gets a chance at being a hero, and she struggles with that, but it feels like slowly but surely, she's turning a corner. She's becoming a better person. She's bullying people less. Maybe she'll never be the clean-cut, baby-faced hero like Marinette, but that's okay because we already have 2 of those on the team, our 2 leads. We don't need any more of that, but it would be good to have somebody on the heroic roster that isn't actually much of a hero. more of an anti-hero. She has baggage, struggles with morality. But then they decided, no, I don't think so. And so now, obviously, as Astruc loves to point out, these episodes were written and locked off on like years before that episode even dropped. So they couldn't really get the fan feedback. So even though they saw Chloe's popularity picking up steam, there was nothing they could do. The swerve was going to come. They couldn't stop by that point. It was too late. And in fact, according to some of his tweets, this was by design. You were supposed to start to like her, to start to trust her, to hope she could change and root for her, because it then hurts more when she fails. You experience that betrayal alongside Marinette, alongside Adrian, and it hurts them, right? That's the idea. And surprise, surprise, there was a miscalculation somewhere along the way, as it's clear that they didn't anticipate people turning on the story so hard and being angry that their time had been wasted. People started to say that they were angry, that they didn't want to see the subversion of a redemption. After all, this is a show that moves at snail pace. And the one thing they had that was changing, one thing about the show that was drawing people in, making people excited about the episodes because it was moving forward, and they changed it back to the status quo. It sucked. And so whilst it clearly did have some people that liked it, we've all seen those classic posts, the occasional unpopular opinion thread that will still crop up from time to time, or the ever infamous, am I the only one who likes Miracle Queen? Hint, there are billions of people in the world, bro. You're never the only one. Shh. But yeah, for the most part, the plot point was panned. Panned, I say. It's not something that people wanted in their superhero cartoon. It probably would have worked in a different format, but for the show that they made and the audience they cultivated, it went down like a lead balloon. And so you'd think, well, it's been panned widely by my audience. People didn't like it. And whilst it's probably too late to backpedal and retcon its ass into nothingness, I can at least steer away from the storm and just try to move past all this discontent. But nope, I don't want to do that. I just want to argue with everybody in the fandom. Sure, why not? And I think for me and for many others, it's just such frustrating behavior, because ultimately it doesn't matter if he thought it was a clever twist. It doesn't matter what they were trying to do with the character. It doesn't matter how much money's on the line or whether he's a professional screenwriter. Because if the people that you market the show towards don't like it, then it doesn't matter about any of that. You failed in your objective in making content that people enjoy. So what is the point of arguing about it? Why argue back? The best thing you can do is just take it on the chin, realize, oh, my audience didn't care for this. Maybe we could pivot in some way that still doesn't just retcon everything. But nope, instead they're going to say, well, you complain as a clearly adults or teenagers. This is a show for children, for young girls, not you. But it's like, even then, are we still in that period of time where we all think that little kids are just the stupidest people in the world? That they're incapable of grasping character arcs and storylines? Because as a kid, I think I can say this for my generation certainly, Avatar: The Last Airbender is the GOAT kids show. And what did that have in abundance? Complex themes, characters, storylines. Oh, look at that! Do you see what I see? A failed redemption arc too with Zuko. And of course, it's all part of the plan, just like it was all part of the plan here, the natural ebb and flow, but it was planned well in advance. They made him more complex. It builds to his true, proper redemption. And since it was written so well, and you could see the conflict, you could see everything that builds up to it and how he reacts to it, it only served to make him even more popular than he already was. There was lots of depth. And even then, there were even more characters that didn't get that redemption arc. They just fall deeper into darkness. Jet. He tries to kill a lot of people and ruin a lot of lives, and ultimately he doesn't change, and then he dies for that. He doesn't really get redeemed for what he did. He just dies. There's a failed redemption, and it makes you feel sick. Then there's Azula. She has this long-term arc that you see slowly evolve. At times you feel like maybe there's hope for her, but then something's going to happen that makes her spiral even further and further into darkness. But the thing is, you can see these plot points being telegraphed so early on. They're not building something to swerve the audience and expect them to like it. But that's what we see here. We see Chloe building to something and then abruptly, without much build-up, just snap back to exactly what she was before, and then some. And that's fine if you go on and say, oh shit, we made the wrong choice. Maybe we can pivot. Maybe we can work something out here. She doesn't have to be a hero. It's probably too late by that point, but you can still salvage it slightly. But nope. Instead, he has an inability to accept that the audience didn't like it and simply further double down to make her character even more heinous to the point that you could never realistically walk back her villain arc ever. It's honestly just weird and cringe. Yeah, I guess you didn't mean to bait the audience properly, and you have plans for the future, but surely you should be able to recognize when you've made a mistake, and that whilst you think you know best, the audience is actually saying, this sucks. We don't like this. Overwhelmingly so. I don't know, and it just comes across as massively arrogant and annoying and condescending. We get it, you made the goddamn show, bro. Holy shit. But nobody likes this. You got to accept that. You at least have to accept that. You can't just say,
You're wrong.
And so yeah, I'd say that is the big gripe. There is so much more, but this video has already built up a lot of time, so I think I'm going to have to milk this topic for more views because I'm shameless like that and I'm splitting up the video. But yeah, this has got to be the biggest reason as to why. The one that most people are going to come to. That he's so unwilling to accept any alternate opinions, take any sort of critique, without blowing up and going on a Twitter rampage. And from what I've seen in the fandom, that is primarily what they hate, that he seems a bit childish in the way he responds to any sort of criticism. Hell, you'd be better to just go radio silence and ignore any criticism if that's how you're gonna be. But yeah, like I said, there is more, but for now, I'll say farewell. And I'd just like to remind you that these have been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What do you think of this whole Thomas Astruc scenario? Is the reason that I listed your main reason for disliking the dude, or is there something else that you want me to cover in the future? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.